I got a few requests about replacing the bushings. Some people call these bushes on control arm or wishbones. Um, the best idea is obviously to go on sites on internet. Just check the below in the video description which sites and to purchase perhaps Limforder or IPD HD control arms, because it's such a much easier way to do it. But if you for some reason don't have access to those sites and you just want to replace the bushing, I will show you how to do it. I will just replace this rear bushing, not the front one. The front one, it's more difficult to replace and needs perhaps other adapters, and also needs to be seated somehow when you punch it out or punch it in. So it takes a table, something to hold it. It's just another story. But for the smaller rear one, one other recommendation, just click in the video description. I will only recommend using the Volvo brand for this one. This one was a Limforder that came in a Limforder box, and it failed on me after less than 1 year. So I don't trust Limforder when it comes to separate bushings, but perhaps the whole arm is better by. So without further doing, just let me introduce the tools. I will need a saw like this because I will detach the blade and insert it to cut the outer sleeve. I will need a drill. It's a one quarter drill. I will just drill around here the rubber, the old rubber, and then just to remove the bushing old one. I will not use a flame. I try to use a flame, but these rubbers are completely different. It's just almost impossible to burn them out. You make a huge mess and smoke and stuff. So don't go with the flame on it. These adapters, I will just give you the dimensions of the whole of the outer sleeve. Check them on your hardware store. I'm not going to say where they are because it's just a matter of finding your own, and it may be different. A cold chisel to punch out the outer sleeve, sandpaper, hammer. I will use some wire steel mesh to clean the hole. I will also use some grease to lubricate before inserting the new bushing. This is what I will use to clean the inside the control arm. You can use any grease, but this one it's more high pressure, so I think it works a little bit better. And then we need to get the replacement. This one basically I'm mostly doing the video just to show it. It's not for me necessarily, but I will just we will need to get the bushing, the newer bushing, into the freezer overnight, not just 2-3 hours. Sit it overnight inside the freezer at -20 something to get it smaller, and sit it, maybe place it inside the bag, so while you're just moving it around, you are not in a rush, not in a hurry. It sits colder in a bag. All right, so a couple of blocks to support the arm when I'm installing the new bushing, and that should be it. Let's just go for it. Before attacking the bushing, it is a good idea to just mark the upper side. So this is the left arm, goes like this. The bumper, the steering stop goes in there. This is how it sits in there. So maybe just mark it on one side so you know which side goes up. That's because there is a difference between in the bushing. A difference is that you notice how it's a difference between the dimension of the internal sleeve, and this guy needs to be seated. This larger part here sits upwards as the control arm sits upward inside the car. You notice how it is. That's the thicker part, and basically you just have to align the bushing in there with these surfaces at the same distance with respect to these surfaces. So it's not a matter of having that thicker part sticking out a lot. It really needs to be aligned. These two surfaces are about the same height here and the same height here. So forget about the outer sleeve. It's just that surface that matters to be aligned with, let's say, the center of the control arm part here. Now this video is for this alloy, aluminum, I think, alloys. There are also steel arms. I'm not sure if that will work on steel arms, which is less expandable. But those were used, I think, on an XC90 and some S60 after some year, I think 2006 or so. That's one thing. Again, when you check on internet, you'll find maybe Limforder and any other brands. All of them, just don't trust them. Go with the Volvo that I'll put in the video description. I put Limforder in there. That's a Limforder one. It was sealed in a Limforder bag, both from FCP Euro, I think, or IPD USA, so official site, and it failed on me. I actually got two of them. I once installed the XC91, which is thicker, and it failed. It cracked with less than 1 year on it. It was definitely a genuine Limforder one. And now the second Limforder, look how it's done. It's just flexing a lot. That's not normal. I mean, it's just it got weaker in less than 1 year as well. So I don't recommend these ones, but if you want to buy the whole Limforder arm, maybe go for it. Maybe they are using different bushings when it's a whole arm. And something more technical, it's not the thickness of the rubber. If you see an aftermarket bushing that it looks like it has thicker rubber on it, it's not the thickness of the rubber that's important, it's the quality of the rubber. The cheaper ones, you can find this even for $2-3. The cheaper ones, you will just not use the right quality of the rubber. The ingredients, the way it's produced, is just not the same as the genuine ones. And by the way, the same goes with the spring seats. It's again the quality of the rubber that's important, not the amount of rubber. Very obvious, but also very important thing. Most of you will never think about it, but never ever try to punch the new bushing in, the new one, not the old one. Never try to punch it on the sleeve itself. You'll just damage and wear the rubber prematurely. So never insert the bushing by kicking the sleeve with a hammer. Okay, time for some drilling. I will just drill holes close to each other, but not into each other, just close to each other. And so on. This is how it looks. So it's not a continuous line. And then once it's nicely drilled all around, just get your chisel. It's a smaller one, and just punch it all around to detach the remaining rubber. May try this on both sides, or just one side, or one on both sides. Again, I would say forget about the flames torch. So it's about 10-15 minutes job, I think. It's really not that bad. I don't know how it looks on the camera, but it's not such a big deal. Once the center sleeve starts to move pretty easily, just go for the hammer. By the way, your old one is going to be much easier to remove. Maybe 10-15 minutes will work. This one was fairly recent, so the rubber are just harder, so the older one are easier. Just slap it nicely, and there goes your center sleeve. By the way, some people, I didn't mention it, but some people will like to use PowerFlex, I think. I'll just link it in the video description. If you need to use those Flexi, or I don't know what the name is, the plastic thing, you need to keep this outer sleeve, I believe. So I will put a link how to do this thing, and also in the video description I'll put a link how to replace, a few tips about replacing the arm, how to lift, jack up the engine, transmission, and so on. So by all means, check the video description for links. Alright, so now let's just grab this thing here. We're going to detach the part and insert it. There, this is how it goes. So the blade goes inside the hole. Depends on the quality of the blade. It may be take a few times to cut. I will cut two grooves, and I want them to be close to each other because I will punch up the metal part in between the grooves. So don't put them too far away. The grooves need to be pretty complete until you mostly reach the arm. It's better not to cut into the arm itself. It doesn't, it maybe stop the groove at some depth, but it definitely need to go close to the arm. So that takes some time, depends on the quality of the blade. Also, I know that the genuine one, original one, I think it's made of alloy, the outer sleeve. But the aftermarket ones may be made of steel and may be much harder to remove. Again, if you are using PowerFlex, whatever name for that bushings is, you may want to preserve this sleeve. Great, so here's my grooves. Again, go close to the control arm but not into it. Mind you, these sleeves just are thicker in the center actually than outside. So my idea here is just to roll the center in between the small section here in between the two grooves, to roll it downwards. So let's just give it a try. Punch it with the hammer. It's possible my sleeve will just slide out because it's not old one, but the old one will be really stuck in there by corrosion. So this is how you tie them. Don't smack the control arm itself. This is not a steel metal, it's just kind of may develop internal tiny cracks. It's better never to punch it even by mistake with a hammer. Careful with that, right? Because this is an important part on your car for your safety. Perhaps make the sleeve a little bit larger so you can grab it easier. Now it's a little bit hard for me to grab it. Just make it maybe I don't know, maybe 1 centimeter large, or maybe half an inch large. No, half an inch large is too much. Make it a little bit larger though. I think I didn't cut deep enough, even though it looks like it's fully cut on the outside, but like I said, the inner side is thicker. So maybe just go back cutting more, and you just want that sleeve to roll pretty easily actually with the sizzle. Once that piece is removed, roll back, and the sleeve is cut open there. Just punch it, but carefully remember not to place it right on the floor. Just place it someplace so it can actually travel and fall from there. Don't make that basic mistake. It'll just come out. And the next step is to clean the hole. Now mine it's already pretty clean, but that's perhaps one of the most important parts. Is really, there's 3 things I will do. I will just sand it first, and sand it until you remove all corrosion. Keep passing that sandpaper for maybe, let's say, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and really just make it shine. It may remove a little bit of metal, not too much, just a little bit. That will just ease the bushing, the new bushing slide in. Again, if you remove too much metal, the new bushing will not sit in there, and that's a big problem. You need to replace the arm. This is after sanding it only. You notice it's clear, it's clean, but it still looks rough. The next step, I will just get my drill, and that's the steel mesh I was talking about. Just place it on something. And I think that's even more important is really to make that surface very, very more like mirror-like, not just shiny, but very smooth. This is what this material will do, will just smooth the surface. It will just not feel rough at all. And that's very important, because that will, if you want to talk about physics, will reduce the friction coefficient, and that's really important when you push the new bushing in place. You want the surface to be just mostly like a mirror actually. If it's not, if you just pass the sandpaper, put some grease, the friction coefficient will really be too high, and you may have trouble pushing that bushing or even adjusting it adjusting it in place if you push it too much or not enough. So let's just see how it looks, the surface, when I'm finished. See how shiny it looks like with that wire mesh. It's really almost like a mirror. That's the difference. So now let's just grab a little bit of grease and just spread it all around, just a thin layer, but really all around there.
Quick talk about the tools I will use. Basically, this was the older sleeve, and you notice if you look on the side of the sleeve, it has one side that's more it's just, it feels like makes an angle. That's the side we are going to install the bushing. It goes like this. Basically, the top of the bushing, the thicker part of the bushing stays on top, and at the bottom of the sleeve makes an angle. That's for inserting it. And it is always going to go from top to bottom. The control arm is seated as it sits inside the car, so prepare it nicely before put it on the blocks to stay solid, because you are going to kick it. I do use a let's call this adapter. This goes just around here on the arm. It doesn't reach inside the hole, so it's just outside, but grabbing on this edge of the arm underneath. It's important, don't forget to place it. That's because when you place the bushing, it will just travel, and basically this top of the sleeve will just pass this edge and will keep going, and has to go below, will just drop like this a little bit. So this side of the bushing will come out by that hole. This is the idea. Let me just pull it aside. So the sleeve of the bushing will travel and has to go inside this adapter. That's why the adapter needs to be larger than the sleeve, but smaller than this edge of the arm. And then I will use another adapter to punch the bushing on the sleeve. Notice it's hollow, so it doesn't punch in the center sleeve but the outer sleeve. I don't think I will use this one actually. That's not good, because like I said, the sleeve here will go below this point. So my adapter needs to be able to go inside that hole in the arm, but still grabbing the sleeve here. At the end of the video, I'll put the measures for the bushing, sleeve diameter, this diameter. So calculate depending on those measurements. Notice how this one goes in there and sits on that sleeve, not inside it, because if it goes inside that outer sleeve, it will just damage the rubber. It sits really on the sleeve itself, but also can travel inside. Okay, so I think we are good to go. Notice how I place the control arm. I just suspended on something. The tube here inside, again, the bushing can pass inside the bottom adapter, if you can say so, and it's kind of level here. It's better to keep it level, not at an angle, because you are going to kick on it. You grab the bushing, the replacement one, again, the thicker part, the bigger part goes at the top, so it'll go like this. Notice how the adapters also, they just pass this bigger part. They are taller, that's important as well, taller than this bigger part. And I'm going to place a piece of wood on top of it to top it, and I don't want to get the center sleeve coming out from the hole. Let's go for it. Let me just put the gloves on. I'll use a regular hammer. It's not the biggest on the planet, but not the small one. Small one may not be enough. The bigger one, I think the bigger the better. So we have about 5 minutes, I would say, from the moment we remove this from the bag. Just place it nicely. Place the adapter on top of it. And just adjust the camera a little bit. Alright, that's better. Place a piece of wood and start to smack it. Shouldn't be going that hard to. And we have to pass it inside, right? Fully inside. So keep going on. Watch out the lower adapter doesn't shift, because your bushing will kick into it and it won't move more. So make sure it's always centered. That's important. Alright, so almost, but not fully in. So what I want, like I said in the beginning, this surface, the distance between this surface and this surface should be the same as the distance between this surface and this one. So it has to travel a little bit more. Don't smack it too hard because you don't want to travel it too much. But always you have the choice to switch the arm and push it back in place from underneath. It's always time to adjust it. I'm grabbing the adapter that goes inside a little bit. Oh, I think it goes the other way. Yeah, that was the other way. All right, let's smack it a little bit. Check again. Always check the distance. And I think I got it pretty much right. You don't need to be a millimeter close. So that's my distance here from, let me just get a ruler. So let's say I have, let's start at 5, more or less I have, I will call it talking millimeters, so it's 11 millimeters about at the bottom, and at the top I have 10. So maybe I just went a little bit too much, but again, it's like I said, it's not that big deal. It's important to be equal, this portion with this portion, but not like microscopically equal. Let's just punch it a little bit backwards, just a little bit. Again, make sure you use the adapter centered. Just a tad. Yeah, that's fine. Let's check it again. It seems to me, yeah, I think I went too much. Maybe just go back a little bit. So you have a few times, a few minutes like this. Again, don't punch there. That's really important. Don't mess with that. You are replacing with a good part, not with a bad part. I know mine moves pretty easily in there, but at this point, wow, let's punch it some more. Yeah, I think that's really good enough. It's not very easy to see with the naked eye, but it does look close distance to me from each point to these areas here. Again, when you shave, when you clean with the sandpaper inside, just clean it to remove corrosion. You may try to remove slightly bit material, but don't go too much, because then it's not going to stay tight in there. You really want it to stay tight in there once it's warms up and the metal is expanded and the job is done. This bigger bushing, it's a completely different story, because you need to, it's not only the same thing, but when you punch the bushing in, you need to sit it like this somehow. So you really need to put an adapter here, and it makes kind of an angle. Some people just got an adapter, let me just hold the camera somehow, got an adapter like this, and they just cut a hole here into the adapter so it fits this angle there. Again, the adapter needs to sit, it's really not obvious because this makes an angle here. It's just not obvious how to sit the adapter against this slip here on the arm while still letting the bushing slide inside the adapter. This is why this one is pretty more difficult actually. That's one problem. And the second problem is you need to stand it somehow on a surface here, and you cannot put it on the floor like I did with the other bushing. It really needs to stay kind of on a table or something like this. So that's the difficulty. And also the length here, the depth where the bushing is going, and I think the bushing will go from this side and it needs to travel. You see all the length, these bushings are larger. Let me get one. Notice how larger they are compared to the other one. So basically, give you hints. Also notice how these cuts here go towards the well. So it goes like this and has to travel inside until it reaches this edge. This one is a bit easier because it has to come to the edge here. So basically when you push it in, you don't need the adapter to go inside the arm. That's not needed. You only need something to push on the outer edge here, anything that reaches this edge. It doesn't matter how it fits in there outside. That's not a problem for that bushing. The only problem is the support here, and I would recommend not trying to punch it like this sitting on the floor, because you are putting a little bit of too much stress here. Maybe it's gonna work, I'm not sure. Maybe it's gonna work. If you want to take a chance to punch it like that, who knows, maybe it's gonna work, but I don't want to stress the arm to just put too much force on it. Want to say something else? This guy here, if you look online, some people say that it kind of needs to sit in there with some rotation. I don't remember which side, which way. I for one, I don't think it's really needed, because when the control arm sits inside the car, it sits almost horizontally. So the normal operation mode of the control arm, it's almost horizontal, and if you sit the bushing to rotate to have a perpendicular angle like this, instead of, some people will say you need to rotate it one way, either way. The bushing, to me, this is the normal position of the bushing. I don't know why you should be rotating it, but just write in the comment section if you think it's otherwise. I hope it helps you guys. Again, if you can, I would recommend much easier go with a full control arm, but if there's no other option, I think the bushings that I was trying to talk about are the Polyflex one. Get just the good brand one. I don't remember what's the name, but just the genuine one. Aftermarket ones are not good, and they fail very easily, even though they are easier to replace. A little bit about the size. The outer sleeve appears to be, the camera is making an angle, but it's really about 2 inches large. That's about 5 centimeters, 50 millimeters, and 51 millimeters. For the control arm area here, when you need to place something underneath, it runs for about 2 inches and 1/4. So this is the outer side here. You'll need to place an adapter over it that won't touch the inner sleeve. The same thing in millimeters, that will be about, I would say, 57, 58 millimeters in the center. I'm measuring really in the center of it. So what you don't want to touch the inner sleeve. So the inner section should not be less than about 57, 56 millimeters. Let's see some dimensioning for the front bushing. First in inches, the inner sleeve would be a little less than 1 inch and 3/4, so it's a little bit less than that, just slightly less. You notice it doesn't really reach, the center of the sleeve doesn't really reach 3/4, it's just before that millimeters. That would be, now I just cannot measure it properly. Start with 5, let's center the 5. Let's see in centimeters or millimeters. Let's start at 5. It goes up to, that's 44 millimeters about. Just, you know, I'm trying to help, but these are maybe not very accurate. So I would say 43 or 43 rather than 44, so you don't want to touch the outer sleeve. Let's see the outer sleeve first in millimeters. Let's go for the 5 again in the center of it.
and it runs for about 53, more or less 53. You don't want to go inside, right, to touch the, and now the outer edge of the arm in inches. It starts at 2 in the middle, or less, and it goes for 4 and 1/16 about. I think that's 1/16, right? Or even 1/32. Hopefully this helps you guys, give you an idea. But again, the best of best is really to go with a control arm, pull it from the car, go to the hardware store or someplace, and just see if those adapters that you can find do much, and don't touch the sleeves in between, so they should work fine. Let's measure the hole with the bushing removed. The inner diameter runs from, put it at 2, and then goes to what you see here. That's the inner diameter. Outer diameter, it's from 2 to this. Let's try it in centimeters. Inner from 5 to 10 and 3 millimeters, and outside from 5 to 11 and 2 or 3 millimeters. So the sleeve is a little bit expanded, so it's just slightly larger now, from 2 to just about 4, perhaps a little bit less, and in millimeters that would be from 5, just place it, to 10 and 1 or 2 millimeter, 1 millimeter, so about 10. Just it's a little bit expanded.